Sure everyone read them word for word. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Leanne has made a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Karen has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Took this out. There we go. Take this out. Next item. Is new business agenda item A, consider a text amendment 2020-1817 amending section 155.2.4 of the Code of Ordinances to add subsection C, 2 principal buildings, comma, 1 use, and move previous subsections D and E down. And I guess we'll turn it over to Tony.
Chairman Smith and members of the planning board, this is only a text amendment that will apply to R2 residential properties only. On October 14th, 2020, the Planning and Inspections Department received a text amendment application from Mr. Matt Sharp, property owner of 110 Raymond Boulevard, for a text amendment to chapter 155.2.4, 1 principal building or use. The text amendment would add a new section C that would allow 2 separated structures on a through lot that is in the R2 residential district with minimum size requirements. The proposed text amendment is on page 10 in 155.24. You see in red under C, 2 principal buildings and 1 use shall be permitted on through lots located in the R2 zoning district, subject to the following requirements. The through lot on which such buildings are located shall not be less than 50 feet in width on the street frontages. The through lot on which such buildings are located shall be not less than 10,000 square feet in size and no less than 200 feet in depth. There shall be a minimum separation of 20 feet between the 2 principal buildings. No part of either principal building or any kind whatsoever shall be permitted to encroach into the 20-foot separation. And D and E is just what's originally in that text amendment. But the analysis of this text amendment, the interpretation of the zoning code 154.24 does not allow for 2 separate structures in R2 districts. The structures have to be connected. And I'll go into that in a few minutes on that connection. So they have to be either over and under or side by side. The adoption of the text amendment would allow for 2 separated structures. There's no increase in density or the size of the structures in the R2 because you still have to follow the 4-area ratio. There are greater setbacks between the 2 units, and I'll go into that in a minute. 20 feet instead of 15 if they were truly 2 lots. This only applies to the properties on through lots in certain sizes. The property can't be subdivided, so it's the same property, one piece of property. And you see on page 11, we have the diagram of what a duplex looks like. Through lot is a lot that has frontages on 2 parallel streets. And typically that's Wayne, South Aluminum. There are other areas, but that's the main area. The legal advertisement announced in this meeting, November 10th meeting, planning board meeting, concerning this text amendment to 155.2.4. It ran on October the 26th, 2020 in the Star News. And it is on the town's website. Staff does support the text amendment, and I'll go over it in a minute why we support this text amendment 155.2.4. In summary, the ordinance will not increase the size of structures, only allowing structures to be separated a minimum of 20 feet. The ordinance would allow more flexibility, we believe, in the designs and will allow only a few properties between Latimer and Arundel Street that this would apply to. So we have the text amendment application, ordinance number 2020-1817, the planning board statement of consistency, and the site examples of 2 structures. If we can go to the PowerPoint, Robert. If you look at this screen here, this is the This is the subject property, 110 Waning. This used to have one structure, big structure back here. It's zone R2, 200 feet deep, street frontage here and here. And you look at the lots beside it. This is a duplex here. This is a duplex. You've got 4 units, but this is the property line here that separates your property. This one has 3 properties. If you've ever noticed it, it's a duplex here, single family, and I think this is another single family here. So those are 3 lots of record there. These properties here never got that. Let's go back to that other slide, Robert. Okay, so we talked about what properties would this relate to. So we know it's going to do this one. And if you see this one, in the past, we get a lot of comments. Tony, I don't want to connect my duplexes. We approved this. This is probably 15, 20 years old. And you see the connection. There's just a small connection. So with staff, it was always difficult to say, oh, well, how far can they be separated? Is it 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet? But we just went by our ordinance to have to be connected some way. This could apply to 114 Wayne. This is a big single, this is a duplex lot. It's a big, if they can meet floor area ratio. If you see this house, this is a pretty good sized house. So maybe they could fit a structure here, maybe, but it's still zone duplex, still has to meet the floor area ratio. Go to the next slide, Robert. And again, this is, you see there, this lot here has 3 separate structures. This is 108 here. Do you have another slide, Robert, or is that it?
Sorry, that's it for those potential lots.
So when Matt Sharp,
This one here.
he couldn't be here tonight. He was going to be on Zoom. I don't know if he's joined yet. Has he joined?
Yes, I'm here on Zoom. Hey, it's Matt Sharp. Sorry
Hey,
about that.
So when Matt came to us 6 months ago or 8 months ago, we started looking at this and we basically said, Matt, if you're going to do a duplex, it has to be connected. And he made a point to say, well, we would get a better product if you could separate them. So we said you have to do a text amendment. Staff can approve that. So we got together with Matt and staff came up with this text amendment and with his support. And you can see, here's a clear indication of that house we approved here. So that's connection. When people come to you, they go, well, you got to connect them. Is it a good product? I don't think so. I think this right here would be a better product to have them separated. But the lot is 50 by 200. It's typically like 2 lots. If you think about it, it could be 50 by 100, 50 by 100, and you got a property line. But no matter what, the lot can't be subdivided. It's still going to be one property. It still can be a duplex. If we don't pass it tonight, or the board doesn't pass it, it still can be a duplex no matter what. So I'd like to submit that for your considerations. If you got questions for me, I'll try to answer them, or Matt can, you could ask Matt some questions too.
Just one quick question for me. What is the zoning on 108?
Those all are two in that area.
Right. The 108, though, that has 3 units on it.
R2, but each lot is separate.
Oh, so there's multiple lots.
Yes,
there.
there's multiple lots. This one's,
You got a
Subject one
duplex
is one
side by
lot.
side and you
Yeah.
got a house behind it.
And there's a street next to it,
Yeah.
so there's entrance points.
Okay.
so
on
those
that
lots are
street.
deeded lots of record, how they were like that for a very
So
long
they're
time.
not something that's grandfathered?
No,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So there's other houses on that street, just not in that block, just a little farther down on the 200 block.
Mhm.
There's a house with a guest house,
Mhm.
and they're not connected.
We did, is this for the Minnesota?
Uh-huh.
Okay, when that was done, at that time, my director looked at that property. And Leanne is talking about the oceanfront property there. And what my director did at that time, she looked at the property and it was a certain amount of square feet, and I forget what that number was. She felt like, and she made that decision, and I think it's worked okay. She permitted 2 structures on, is it a duplex lot?
It never was. Before that, it was just the family home that sat on stilts. For a lot of yard in front.
Yeah,
And that was the main
Yeah,
house.
she
that I
approved
lived
2 structures on that. Some people didn't agree with it, but she approved it, and so that's the only one that I noticed that done like that. But you can look on the south end, you'll see some structures. There'll be one on the ocean front, one closer to the street that's been
There's
approved.
several of those.
There's
though.
several of those older ones. But,
Are those considered through lots though?
no,
I
those
didn't
are
think
not.
so.
Those are not through lots. But when you look at this through lot here, we think it's a good fit. You've got, the house can be addressed on South Luna, Waynick. You don't have to have any easements. The structures, have to meet the floor area ratio, and you've got a greater setback, so.
So what's the difference between, other than that being a through lot and the ocean fronts? Like, I mean, there's houses being built on the south end, being built with gas houses or two
Well, no,
structures. Are they connected?
they're connected.
Okay.
They're connected, so they're not two separate structures.
They're
And you're
connected.
seeing a lot of these big houses now, they're being designed, they're single family, they're zone R1, but they're putting the garage maybe to the side
Mhm.
and they're connected with the living area, but
Okay.
they're single family.
And what about the lot, a little bit about a block down from this lot we're talking about?
Yeah.
That's empty right now, and that's getting ready to, my understanding is that's gonna have a duplex on it. Are they gonna look to do the same
And
thing?
if it doesn't, we looked at, we feel like it's only gonna apply to those lots, most of those lots. as you go to-
Between the two streets?
Yeah, most of the time, the lots that go to the south are not 200 feet deep. They go from 200 to around 160 feet.
Mhm.
So it would not apply to them. So this text amendment would not apply to those.
Did the Whitaker bought that lot, that empty lot, that, you know, that strip of condos where Mary Martha and all them live? There's that big empty lot, they tore down the house,
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah,
been built
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
but now it's been resold and it's,
Okay.
gonna be a duplex. from my understanding. But that doesn't matter because it's not a through lot.
Yeah.
And one reason why we think this works good is, like I say, it's 200 feet deep. It typically gives you like a 50 by 100 lot on each one. So, and if it was something that was, 80 feet or 100 feet, staff probably would have supported this. If this is 200 feet deep, we think it would be a better product.
Does anyone have questions for Tony at this time? I think we'd probably like to hear from the petitioner.
So Matt,
Hey, yeah, this is Matt Scharf. I really appreciate you guys hearing this out, and here to happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I think one thing that's unique about this property is that it's more than actually 200 feet deep. I think our lot is 230 feet deep or something like that, but it's a lot larger, and it really only applies to a couple lots on the whole beach. I guess the ones right next door. So.
Did we lose you, or was that the only comments that you had?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still here, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have about that. We were trying to come up, and I was working with Tony and Tim to just try to sort of, I guess, define what the duplex connection would be. We bought a lot, I guess, May of last year. 110 Lumina was the address, and then we built a house on the Waynick side, and I guess we were trying to figure out how we would do a duplex on the other side that would front the Lumina street, and we talked about a whole lot of different ideas, and the lot is so big that if we were to build I guess another structure, it would actually sit towards the middle of the lot, and then there would be a lot of space between the front of that house and Lumina. It would be about something like 45 or 50 feet, and that kind of doesn't rhyme with the streetscape that you've got there on South Lumina, where the houses are basically 15 feet from the street. This one would be, set further back. So then we were trying to figure out, okay, if we put the house further out onto Lumina, and then we'd have a larger space in the back, but it had to be connected because it was a duplex lot. And that's when we kind of came up with this idea of why not separate the two houses. It still would be, a duplex. One would front Waynick and one would front Lumina. But since the lot is so deep, it would allow you to have, 20 feet of separation, between the houses in the back. So it would give a backyard, to each property. And you wouldn't just have this sort of weird connection that you kind of don't, it's kind of a strange connection the way that it would be just because the lot is so deep. We're actually a bigger lot than the one at, next to us going south.
So going forward, in your mind, you build another structure on the site. This will always be one ownership.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Tony's going to address here.
Yeah, it could be a single ownership, or he could sell it. He could sell it next week. It would be like common area. It's a duplex, so he could live in one. If he wanted to sell the other one, he could do that. So he wouldn't have any issue for that or rent it. So.
If you still
I mean,
have in a lot
plan-
separated?
AB.
Okay.
So you would condominiumize it.
Our plan is to own it and build a house, build a second house. We'll have a second guest house, behind our house. That's what our plan is. And it would be one ownership, but I guess the rules of a duplex, again, I don't think this is a Wrightsville Beach thing as much as it's just the way a duplex would work is that two people could own it separately like they do all other duplexes. I mean, sometimes I guess someone owns both sides, but a lot of times they would own both, someone would own one and someone would own the other. But in our case, we actually would own both sides. But at some point when I'm no longer here, someone may, my kids may own one and someone may own, the house that sits on Lumina that we'll build. So.
I have a question about the deeding of this situation. By it not being connected, does that still follow how it would normally be deeded as I guess a townhouse or a condominium?
No, it would be, there'd be no reason for us to separate that. We would have, just like right now, we could build a duplex onto the back and we wouldn't have to have a conversation. We would just fill the permits out and do that. And we'd build we would do it. But at this moment, we would have to connect it to the house. And so the ownership, we wouldn't, because I'm not selling this. I would be the owner like I am today. I own that lot and it's a duplex lot. So there's an A and a B, but currently there's no B.
I understand that. And I guess maybe that question is maybe for Tony, or maybe it's just it's something that has to get sorted out elsewise by you, the property owner, I suppose.
It could be, it would be like any duplex, like Matt said. What we typically see is individuals come in, developers build a duplex. We permit it as 1 and 2 family dwelling. Typically 6 months, 8 months down the road, the units get sold. They get common ownership of the property. It's marked, labeled for unit A or unit B. And it can be sold, it can be rented. So that's what I think would typically happen the same way if it would. And then Ace may be able to chime in, but that's what would happen with it.
I'm curious to hear Ace's thought.
Well, I think what we're beating around the bush about is Matt's going to keep it for now.
Yeah.
Makes no difference to the town about that.
Right.
If Matt decides to sell one or both of the units at some point in time, it'll be up to him to turn them into condominiums, which is probably most likely going to happen because the lender is going to require, separate loans on separate structures. But again, I don't think that's an issue with the town. That's up to Matt.
Yeah, I would imagine that's exactly how that would work. I was actually talking to my attorney about it when we bought the lot originally, and I said, what happens if we build, a second structure? And he said, well, if you were to build a second structure and you owned it, you would keep everything the same as it is right now, where, there's one owner. If you were to sell one or both separately, then they would have to create some sort of condo documents, and where there would be, I guess, a common wall or a common area that's managed. And there's a dock involved with this also, on the other side of Waynick, that I would imagine would be a condoed item as well, because one side of the dock would probably go to the house on Lumina and one side would go to the one on Waynick. But presently we're not doing that. That's, I guess, more of a legal matter, and there's no reason to separate them at the moment. I mean, our goal is to, it is, we work long and hard to try to get this property, and we're excited that, we're able to, do it this way where it's a duplex lot. And so our goal is to keep it forever. But clearly at some point, real estate is not owned forever.
I would just like to revisit the issue one more time, Jim, if I could. I think I understand from whatever everybody has said, that down the road, it may have to go in a certain direction. I just wanted to be clear that the town doesn't take on any liability because we approve this request, and then there's some issue that comes up that it can't be deeded properly to be sold separately or something like that.
Well, I'm not an attorney, and I would hope if our recommendation is a positive one goes to the board, that the town attorney is going to find that. Tony's shaking his head yes, that he would.
If he were to build as the current amendment states, he could separate it anyway, as it said, even if they were connected, so it's not a whole lot different.
Right.
Which actually safer. Somebody doesn't have access to the other person's unit.
Well, you've got good fire access in between,
Yeah.
which is really nice. So. Does anyone have any other questions? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I do have some comments. If the applicant's
Oh,
finished,
sorry. There you are. Okay, go ahead.
if the applicant's finished with his presentation, and are we discussing it amongst the board at this point?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to hear what Mr. Culp has to say, because I'm in favor of this proposal for looking through the town of Wrightsville Beach's lens, mainly because I never quite could understand a giant duplex with 3,500 square foot autonomous units that were simply connected, because that's what fit in our ordinance box. So to me, this property could have, the likelihood of two self-sufficient, freestanding 3,700 square foot structures, but separated in the rear by 20 feet, which I'm thinking is advantageous from a fire standpoint. And David puts his fireman's hat on more than any of us probably. So I'd just like to see what David has to say about that.
No, Ace, that was one of the things that I liked about this, that they didn't try to do the 7.5 feet, because that's awful tight, especially when the fence decides to go up between the two. And I don't know that would happen, but if they were separated, that's one of the things that could possibly happen, is it would be fenced. So I like the extra space there. I really have no problem with this separating the two. I kind of agree with it. It makes a better product for both of them. It's less sound going to carry it. So I don't see any negatives.
Yeah, I agree. And Matt, I think just as a comment, it is interesting that you're not putting a developer's hat on and trying to maximize the square footage of 2 units and really trying to get probably a nice principal dwelling and then a guest house. So I cannot find any other sites on the beach that actually are 200 feet in length. I was thinking the Carolina Temple Apartments were, because the 500 block of Waynick is very similar to the 100 block of Waynick, but they're falling a little short in the 200 foot category. And even with that said, it just seems reasonable, both from Tony's eyes and just as a layperson, just looking at these structures, to have separation between the two when, you know, this creating the interlocking of the two in the 100 block of Waynick, as this examples already show, they're just married by structure. It just seems kind of odd. So I think I just feel like this is a positive for the town of Wrightsville Beach. That's all I got, Jim.
Well, I am glad you asked David, because David had a comment that struck a nerve with me. Matt, would you be, I'm just asking the question, I'm not saying the rest of the board's going to go along with this, but would you be willing to agree to putting a condition on this, that there would not be a fence erected in that 20-foot space? And I, again, thinking from firefighting, if there was a fence right down the middle, or I guess you could put it anywhere you wanted, it could make it difficult to fight a fire in between the buildings.
My thing is, it's still more than what we have on our regular.
Right, but once you do that, and then I don't know if they put air conditioner stands in there, and
Right, that's true.
you know.
Yeah, you know, what happens is we have not designed this house in the back, because I was sort of looking at this decision, because clearly we would design something different if we did, you know, if it were connected, or if it connected by a fence, or connected by a gazebo, or, you know, what we kind of were leaving it open. What I'm not sure is how much room there will be back there. And so, you know, we have dogs, and so our goal would actually be to fence in the whole property, sort of, you know, a side fence maybe towards the middle of that house on Lumina, going all the way back to the Waynick side, just so we would have a full yard. Because, you know, for our purposes, that backyard would be the distance between the two houses, which, you know, could be 40 feet. And so that would be an adequate yard, which is kind of unique in Wrightsville Beach, to have a yard for dogs to run around, or go to the bathroom or play or whatnot. And so that's really what our goal is. So I don't have a goal at all to put a fence between the two properties, meaning, like, you know, separating the two properties. For us, it's going to be one whole property.
Well, to David's point, the property next door to you is a whole lot worse than what you're going to do here, so I'll withdraw that comment. So with that being said, are there any other comments from either the petitioner or the board or the staff?
What property did you just talk about?
The one on page 18.
The one with the pool?
No, it's got the connection.
Yeah, with the pool.
Yeah, they do have a pool, yeah.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I assume that the property would require two water meters, 2 sanitation outlets, and 2 trash cans.
Tony shaking said yes.
Thank you.
So if there's no further discussion, I think Cheryl was interested in making a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we approve the zoning text amendment 155.24, adding the new section C as written.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Along with the statement of consistency, I think it should read ordinance number 2020-1817. Along with the statement of consistency. So that's the way to go.
Okay. Robert, do you have that down?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Uh, And Leanne has seconded. And because we're doing Zoom, I guess we should do a roll call vote. Starting with Cheryl.
Cheryl Kabala, aye.
David Culp, aye.
Jim Smith, aye.
Leanne Joyner, aye.
Karen King, aye.
Neil Briggy, aye.
Thomas Kofor, aye.
Okay, that was unanimous, Robert.
Thank you.
You just want to carry all year.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark.
Thank y'all for your time. I appreciate y'all being so thorough about it. I really do. Thanks so much.
Our next item, is there any old business from, and I guess we can combine any old business from the chairperson, board members, or staff.
Staff doesn't have any.
I've got some new business.
Good.
I think you're gonna see me again. I'm gonna come into the next meeting
All right.
and I'm gonna have maybe bring my wife and kids there because I don't know if I'll have 1 or 2 more meetings left and maybe we'll get a picture in front of the Wrightsville Beach sign.
Love it.
You might actually see me wear a sports coat. Be careful.
Oh,
You on one?
With flip-flops.
There you go. We'll have to bring some cupcakes in. So.
Hey Ace, we were discussing this earlier amongst a couple of us, about, do you mind if can I bring this up?
Sure, yeah, it's
Business,
other business, so yes.
other business. I don't know, I was driving across the bridge last night and there's like 25 boats and sailboats out in Banks Channel. And, my question was, you know, why are we not able to charge those boats? And Jim brought up the point that Carolina Beach charges, he thinks, those boats.
I'm pretty sure they do, and they have
A mooring fee.
buoys out
Yeah.
there that they charge for. So, is that,
And the board has discussed that in the past, the board of Alderman
Yeah.
discussed those, mooring, and, it never got traction with it. I mean,
Suppose it's too much to hire somebody to enforce it and collect it, was what I've been told. But they're only allowed to anchor there for 3 weeks. And there's a guy on the police department who gives them citations if they stay on.
And we still have a boat that keeps breaking loose.
Mhm.
It was on Money Island again this morning.
Well, whatever happened, because I was part of the passing around the petition that was circulated a few years back to make that section between when you come out of the CPAP or come out of Mott's Channel and take a left, turning that into a no wake zone because it's gotten so dangerous. How did that get killed so quickly? Never made it past.
That isn't a wake zone.
No, it's not.
There used to be signs, I thought. that
There's
said
no,
that.
it's a
No, it's not. I'm talking about between when you come out, not that, when you first come out, then you get past the no wake zone. That's right there. When you come out of Mott, you go past CPAC, you come out the Banks Channel, you've got, blockade runner kind of in front of you. All of that is not a no wake zone. So we had a petition, we had about 400 signatures.
I
For
think
people
that
that
no
live,
way it's enforced by the state,
that we wanted it just on that one section
because
because
it's a state. driven.
yeah, and that's what, but it had to get past here to go far, and it didn't get, it made its first appearance.
Yeah,
Do you remember this?
I remember some of this,
Mhm.
and, it's been discussed for a very long time in different areas, but there may have been some roadblocks.
Yeah, I'm sure,
Petitions.
because even since that petition, that there's even more boats out there. I mean, they're coming farther down. or even
Yeah,
going
they're in front of
down.
my house now.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that far down,
There's no room.
oh, there's plenty of room down
No, I'm
where we
talking
are.
about where,
Yeah, I'm saying,
the section I'm talking about.
that
there's no
section
room.
where we are, there's plenty of room and there's
We're
plenty of
starting to
deep
move
water.
down.
I don't know, I was just curious, I just see it as a money-making opportunity more than
I thought
anything.
the same thing, I had to address it.
I mean, even if you charge all those boats $20 a day, which isn't much, that's a lot of money.
Now, we've moored before, when you got there, you had to go take your boat, you had to go up by boat to this office, pay your mooring, and they gave you a lock. And then you went and unlocked, and you hooked up to your mooring, and you paid while you were there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's never really taken up steam here. Certainly could be a concept for the public-private parking relationship that we have, that the folks that manage the parking meters who are
that's true.
eager to gain more income on the cost sharing and the profit sharing that we do with Wrightsville Beach, you could
Yeah.
potentially assign something like that to them. I don't know.
Get a little Zodiac and a
I
8 horsepower
have-
motor on it.
Put Cat Pat out there on the boat, she was there.
We used to take the John boats out there and circle them and, and tell them they had to pay us or we were gonna keep them up all night.
And we could also monitor where they flush,
Yeah, that's true.
because
You know they do.
we've had 2 or 3 of them that we
Yeah.
actually got video of flushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, what you're finding too is
Toilet
that,
paper hanging out.
oh, I'm sure, but they're using the street ends as places to dump their boats. I think you get them off the end of the street there with you, don't you, on occasion?
Yeah, that's kind of decreased quite a bit. 'cause
Right,
I've stayed
well,
on top of
put
it.
somebody on the police force,
Yeah.
and when I see them.
And as long as
I call them.
they're not between the pierhead line,
Right,
then they can more. But if they pull up in there, I call Shannon immediately.
yeah,
Because ultimately, they end up paying for our bulkhead.
oh, yeah.
And steps and everything. I mean, it's a mess. So. And it becomes party central,
Mhm.
so.
Well, combined with that question, because that's something that we should bring up to the aldermen if we are passionate about it, but have you ever heard about joint meeting?
No, I forwarded your letter, Daryl, and you reached out back to him, or
I guess I'll give them another call.
I would just give him another call.
Yeah, because we really need one, because I think there's a lot of items and ideas we can take to them.
Yeah, well, Lisa did a lot of research on mooring and stuff, Lisa Weeks, I think.
Lisa did?
I was told they looked into it, and
They
it's
looked
not
into it.
cost effective, is what Mayor Woodard had told me.
Since then, we've got the boats, the police department.
How are they coming with their,
I don't know
Building
that we
plan.
have them in what the office-
Over there, I think it's got a dead water.
okay?
What building plan?
That's true, yeah.
Well, I actually went and did it, but I guess during the 5-minute comment period, a couple of months ago. And it was right after Hurricane I, because half of this building, the old Parks and Recs building, was strewn across the park, pieces and junk. And I told them it's an embarrassment to the town. I don't have any personal gain by getting it rebuilt or fixed up, but it's just an eyesore, and the fire station, the old fire station, eyesore, and they said, yeah, we're gonna do something. Nothing's happened. Although Katie did say that Jeff came in and talked to her, asked her some questions about it, the building and so forth, so. But I just think everything, they've got a lot of facilities and empty spaces and junk spaces that are just underutilized in this area of town. I approached them about, all that space back there where the marine science access is. I think there's space back there for 10 or 12 credit parks that we could probably lease credit parks back there for $1,000 a space per year.
Would that be hidden away from people's view though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all.
You're talking about there back behind.
No worse than looking at that
Shells
yellow
used to be-
dumpster. And the ugly
Yeah, that
fire
is something
station.
we don't-
It's still there.
Oh, I thought they moved.
And then
Yeah.
they keep some of that styrofoam, but it's gotta be a certain type that UNCW is collecting. Wasn't that in there?
I'm not sure.
I'm not familiar with styrofoam stuff. But,
Oh, somebody looked to see if there's a camera out here by the recycling. I want y'all to see me trying to tear a box down the other night. I thought, if there's a camera out here, and I was trying to, it was a big box and I didn't have a knife with me. And I thought, they were sitting out there watching this thing on the camera and laughing their butt off. It took me 20 minutes to get that. I was sitting there laughing.
Well, if there's no other comments, I will call Daryl again and see if we can get a joint meeting going. I think that'd be really helpful, because this type of conversation, I think, could be beneficial to the town. With them hearing our concerns. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Leanne motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
David second. All in favor, say aye.
I
Thanks all.
Thank you.
see you guys.
What's going on?
30 days, we'll see you live and in person next month.
That's what he went.
Chris, but they have everything going in the crazy.
Oh, that's right. 'cause
You know, I have this.
I'm sorry, I was late. I went to